Raquel, and this is my partner Loreto, and are from the Boston Interpreters Collective. Can you hear? No. We could do it a cappella. People think that it's with their headset. We can do it a cappella. Do you want to do it a cappella?
Este evento será bilingüe entre el inglés y el español, así que les pedimos a todas las personas que no hablen los dos idiomas que por favor utilicen un equipo de interpretación.
This meeting will be bilingual, so we ask that anyone who is not bilingual between English and Spanish to please use this equipment.
Utilizaremos el canal A para español y el canal B para inglés.
We'll use channel A for Spanish and channel B for English.
Le vamos a pedir a todas las personas que cuando hablen, hablen fuerte y lento para que podamos interpretar simultáneamente.
We ask that when you speak slowly and loudly so that we can interpret while you speak.
Si nos hace falta que hablen más fuerte, realizaremos esta señal.
If we need you to speak louder, we'll use this hand signal.
O más lento.
Or slower.
O una a la vez para que no tengamos que escoger cuál voz interpretar.
Or one at a time so that we don't have to choose one voice over another to interpret.
Cuando hable en voz alta puede hablar en cualquiera de los dos idiomas porque le estaremos traduciendo.
When you speak out loud, you can speak in either language because we will be interpreting.
Cualquier problema con el equipo, por favor, levante la mano y le ayudaremos.
If you have any problem with your equipment, please raise your hand and we'll help you.
Y le agradecemos su compromiso a la justicia multilingüe.
And thank you for your commitment to multilingual justice.
We have a little hold up. We're waiting to have at least 6 counselors present in order for us to start the meeting. So I know that parking is tough on Tuesday night, so if you could just give us a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for a 6th counselor. So just chat among yourselves. And then we go from there. Got it. Just hit it. Yeah, I got it. And these people were all invited, right? They're on the, okay. Clerk will call attendance.
Councilor Vido.
Present.
Councilor Lopez. Councilor Rodriguez. Here. Councilor Brown. Councilor Bishop. Councilor Tejada. Councilor Avellaneda. Councilor Robinson.
Here.
Councilor Pilatanda. Councilor Garcia.
Present.
Councilor Ray Cooperole. 6 members present. You have a quorum, Madam Chairman. The call of the meeting is the update on the Chelsea Housing Authority in its project. Officials invited to attend: Tom Ambrosino, City Manager; Al Ewing, Chelsea Housing Authority; Ronnie Slayman, Joseph J. Cochran Company; Melissa Booth, Innis Resident Association; the Development Team; John DePriest, Director of Planning and Development; Planning Board members, honorable members of the Council, all interested parties. Maker of the motion to refer it to the Subcommittee on Conference, Councilor Robertson. Bishop, really.
It was Bishop.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Madam President. I'll have a brief statement. I want to relate the Innis Apartment is for everyone. This is more than just a new housing for low-income residents. This project is about creating homes and spaces for all of our community to enjoy and to be proud of for generations. There is a need to create housing for all in our community. 40 new middle-income units will allow for public housing families and individuals to make more money and still stay where they are. It will create new units for people such as police and fire personnel who seek reasonable rents to live near their work, and others who want to stay in Chelsea or return to Chelsea but find rents increasingly out of reach. The market rate units provide the resources necessary to keep the future Innis apartments beautiful, clean, well-maintained, attractive to the surrounding community. Building 1 would never know if you are a market rate tenant or a public housing tenant based on your unit in the building. New retail space, daycare center, and green space will help improve the quality of life for all that live in the community.
Thank you, Councilor Robinson. So we decided we know that this is a huge project in our community, and we wanted to make sure that we can reach as many people in the community so we can know what's going on. There are a lot of people in Chelsea that don't know enough about it, so we chose to televise it and to have it in this meeting. So we have a list of guests from Chelsea Housing and their team that will be presenting. Afterwards, the City Council will ask questions, and if time permits, we'll allow comments from the public. For now, I will have Al Ewing. You go ahead and, yeah. They already did. They handled it. Thank you. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you for the opportunity to update you on the proposal for the redevelopment of the Innis Apartments. Since we last met, we had some work to do to make this proposal better. And I believe through this process with you, we now have a better proposal to share with you tonight. We are now committed to full prevailing wage for the entire project. We have included some very exciting new middle-income units that give more housing solutions for more people in our community. And we have increased parking by 22% for the residents of the proposed property by securing 50 off-site parking spaces. We hope you agree that this proposal should move forward in the process. Our public housing residents deserve to live in better conditions, and we can't get there without the resources and expertise this project provides. Joining me tonight is our development team, which is myself representing the Chelsea Housing Authority, Melissa Booth, the president of the Innis Resident Association, and Ronnie Slamman, the project director from Joseph J. Cochran Company, our development partner. Also with us tonight is Linda Dorsina Forey and Brooke Woodson from Suffolk Construction, who will speak to their commitment to the local community and history of the success in building housing solutions like the Innis Apartments. With that, Melissa.
Good evening. It is important that we try and get this process as quickly as possible. Sorry. The residents at Innis Apartments are long overdue to have new apartments on a redeveloped site. Most of the living situations are not suitable, and each unit needs improvement. Sidewalks and stairs going into the apartments are all in bad condition. And the windows are terribly drafty, especially this time of the year. Even though the heat is on, it's still cold in the apartments. We approve and support the proposed redevelopment because we feel this project will benefit our residents' future and we will finally have a nice place to call home. Thank you.
Mr. Ewing, I just wanted to, because the reason why we call this meeting was to find out, we don't know about the project.
Right.
So when does that presentation start?
It's-
They can say their comments after,
Yeah,
we don't know anything about
we'll
it.
be going through it. It was just the entire presentation will be starting in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Brooke Woodson from Suffolk Construction.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Again, I'm Brooke Woodson. I'm Director of Trade Partner Diversity for Suffolk Construction. We're a Boston-based construction management firm with a long history in Boston, especially of doing projects that help benefit the neighborhoods that we're working in. You may know us from building the casino over in Everett, where we're meeting or surpassing all the diversity goals on that project, but what really gets us excited is these neighborhood projects. We have a track record of building affordable housing projects, starting with the Old Colony projects in South Boston, and more recently, the Orient Heights project in East Boston. On those projects, we've been very successful in getting local residents employed on those projects. We use different tools like the HUD Section 3 program, which is geared towards hiring residents of those particular housing developments. We have a very good relationship with our local unions. We are signatory with the carpenters and the laborers, and it's good to see so many folks from the Carpenters Union here tonight, and we've really worked closely with them to make sure that they are employing people from Chelsea on this project. So we do have a long track record. We're proud of that track record, and we would look forward to working with the city of Chelsea to hit any goals that are set for this project.
Of the room. This is on. Okay. Should I wait for Councilor Damali? Okay. Thank you again for allowing us to be here today. My name is Ronnie Slamman. I'm the project director with Joseph J. Corcoran Company. We want to give a brief overview of the project, the development proposal, and allow enough time for questions from the city councilors and from the audience. So I'll make this brief to allow enough time for questions. So this is the Innes Apartments. They're located at Central Ave, and they face Willow Street and Watts. I'm sure you're very familiar with the site. The site is all the buildings are very old. There's 8 buildings currently there, and they all are in need of significant renovations. Sorry.
The buildings at Innes were built in 1950 with state funds through the Housing Authority. Of course, they're not ADA compliant. There's no elevator access. There's very small units with limited windows and exposed lights, outdated appliances, poor ventilation. Basically not built for today's needs as far as living is concerned. Deteriorating sidewalks and walkways, as you see in some of the pictures that we have in the hallways there. The residents that live there, we have 96 units. It involves some senior citizens are living there, lifetime residents are in that development. We have 122 children who live in our development. 76% of them self-identify as Hispanic or Latino. Yeah? And again, you know, we definitely want to make sure that that our residents live, work, and grow with us. Okay, this is an opportunity for people to stay in the units even after they make more money than is required than they're allowed to make as public housing tenants. That's the beauty of having the middle-income units, that they're able to stay and grow in those developments. We want to create homes that people can be proud of living in, and that's why we need to have these new developments. Right now, one of the problems is I get about $600,000 a year in modernization funds from the state. That's $600,000 to cover 5 developments, 560 units. Okay. To give you an example, 2 years ago, we had to replace 2 elevators in our elderly building. That was a total of $473,000. Doesn't leave a lot to do other things. This past year, we've had to replace a 3rd elevator and a lift, another $308,000. In 2013, we used those funds. We spent $785,000 just replacing 9 boilers and water tanks at the Innes development. So we never get around to other things, kitchens and baths, because everything we do is a priority 1 that has to be done for safety reasons. And again, there's just not enough money from the state, and that's why we look to this NOFA to try to get some funds from the private sector, that we enter into a private-public partnership to bring money into these units so that we can really do something to bring them up to where they need to be. There's about a $1.5 billion backlog in the state right now, and despite that money, we need to make sure that right now that we get help doing this, and we need to do that with our development partner. This is a relationship between the partnership between the Chelsea Housing Authority, Joseph J. Cochran, and the Resident Association, okay? But there's a fourth person in here, and that is the city. You know, we need you to also be partners with us and to support this project as we move forward, okay?
Thank you, Al. So as a project team, we are making many commitments, and I just wanted to list a few. We are committed to paying the prevailing wage on the project. That was something we had come before the City Council before. We are now committing to the prevailing wage across the entire project. We are also committed to preserving the diversity of Chelsea and the Chelsea community, and we're going to try to incorporate that as much as possible through our outreach and our feedback, really trying to figure out how we can help contribute to the Chelsea community and preserving that. We also are committed to finding innovative transportation and parking solutions. We know that's a concern in this area and in the city, and we want to work with the city to find solutions. I'm sorry if you can hear me. And we also want to limit off-site relocation for our residents. We know that that's important for us, and we are committed to that, and we're working with the residents to make it as easy as possible, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Part of that is being mindful of the school-aged children and families in the apartments. And then we also we're committed to funding the relocation costs related to the project. So residents won't incur any costs during the move, and that's very important to us in the entire partnership. And lastly, and most importantly, we're committed to creating beautiful spaces for families and individuals in Chelsea. That's for our 96 families currently in the greater Chelsea community. The proposed development model is only possible because there's an existing need for housing for the 96 units. That's why we're working on this project. That's why we're here. We realize that the current funding model is not sustainable, and that's why we're proposing a mixed income approach. What's important about a mixed income approach is that the market rate units are used to subsidize the low income, and that's a way to ensure that the quality of the buildings remains for the length of this lease that we'll have with the Chelsea Housing Authority. And that's for 99 years. So normally you find projects that are affordable for 15 years, 35. Our project would be 99 years of affordability. This market rate or this mixed income approach also supports retail space. By having a little bit more income in the area, we're able to create retail space, activate the area, and add job creation. Another reason why this model works is because we're close to the new Silver Line Transit. We're applying for a 40R smart growth zoning, which you need to be close to transit to have. Part of the 40R is that the city would receive money, around $1.1 million, and that's only because we're close to the Silver Line. Another part of this project that makes it work is that we have a partnership, like Al mentioned, with the Chelsea Housing Authority and the Ennis Residents Association. We're going to be working all together, providing job training and job placement for residents in our buildings, and also providing on-site property management. And that's to ensure that the building maintains for years to come, so we're not seeing the pictures that are outside. And that also is to ensure that residents can grow in place and progress in place. We are committed to a residents first approach. We are guided by working with the Ennis Residents Association in all our decisions. We want to have the community engage as much as possible, the residents engage as much as possible, and we look to the IRA for their input. And we want to make this transition for the residents as easy as possible. First off, we are committed to, all residents have their right to return. That's a requirement by the state and requirement by the CHA. So I just want to state that first. We are really trying to make sure that the community is integrated, and this picture shows that. The blue boxes show the affordable units, and that's to show that All the affordable units will be spread throughout the site, and that's to make sure that it's fully integrated. We don't want a rich door, poor door scenario here. The housing cost for residents will remain the same as it's calculated now, 32% of their income. We'll be replacing all units the same sizes, so 2s, 3s, and 4s. Those are very hard to find in the Chelsea community. And we're also covering relocation costs. The relocation plan, we are doing it in 2 phases, and that's to minimize the relocation of the residents, to once again make it as easy as possible, but also to minimize the construction impact of the project on the surrounding community. So this is a site that we're proposing. This is a design, just a draft as of right now. Someone likes it. So this is a site. It will be now in 3 buildings instead of the 8 that are currently exist. We really want to be considerate of the surrounding area and have the buildings fit into the fabric, and also take advantage of the new T-stop that's above. I can point up there. That's above here, which is a 4-minute walk. So we really want to have housing located next to transit, allowing people to get to downtown and access jobs, our residents to access jobs and see this as a hub. We will be replacing the daycare around 3,000 square feet, and we're also looking to add retail space at the corner of Central Ave and Willow. So that's right here, the little red awning. And we are thinking about grocery stores or a cafe. We recognize this area is a food desert. Residents currently have to go all the way down to Broadway or to Market Basket to have any healthy food options. And we really want to emphasize health on this site and promote a quality of living for our residents. So this is an overview of the project. Like Al mentioned, we'll have replacing 1-for-1 all 96 low-income units or public housing units, 1-for-1. We're also adding 40 middle-income units. These are for people such as firefighters, police officers who now may have a requirement to live in the city. This is for elderly folks in Chelsea who want to stay in the community but no longer want to live in housing and own a home. This is also for the next generation of Chelsea residents who maybe millennials moving out of their parents' house and want to move into their own place. This would be affordable for them. In addition, we have the 194 market rate units, and that's to cross-subsidize the low income and make sure that the project remains a high-quality project where residents want to live. We're adding 226 parking spots, and we've also acquired 50 spots off-site if we need them. We don't think we'll need them, but we wanted to go out and show that we are trying to address some of the parking concerns, so we were able to get those from pre-flight. We also will be adding amenity space, a fitness room, community room, and bike storage for residents, and then the new daycare, and once again, the retail and the new green space. This is an area view of the green space. You can see that we're adding a lot back. We will be updating the playground and also adding green to the Central Ave, and that's a way to really activate that street and once again promote healthy living.
I'm sorry, can you show us the green space?
Yep.
Can you show me with the...
I can do it.
Yeah.
Let me see how I finagle this. So we will be adding a lot of new green space back. This is the first building. We'll be adding green space right here. This will be accessible to the public and a way to activate this area next to in connection with the waterfront. This is green space for the daycare, and then we'll also be having green space and new trees and shrubbery down the street as you walk to the Central Ave. This will also be a green space, more so for the residents. We're trying to be mindful of the garage that's back there and don't want to create an unsafe environment. And this area right here is a playground tot lot that currently exists and would be upgraded, and we would be trying to make that more accessible, take down the fences, and make it more inviting for the rest of the community.
Thank you.
So the project would bring many benefits to the city and to the community. We would expect around $3.6 million in infrastructure funds. So that's funds going into the roads and the sidewalks there. I'm sure if you've seen some of the pictures out there, the sidewalks are pretty bad. This would be money from the state to fund this public infrastructure. The project would also add around $3.4 million in revenue to the city over 15 years. Currently, the Chelsea Housing Authority pays around $3,000 a year, and over 15 years, that comes out to be $51,000. So over the same period of time, the CHA would pay $51,000, whereas we would pay $3.4 million in tax revenue to the city. That's money that can go to schools, operations, more jobs for Chelsea employees. The project is costing probably around $120 million. With that investment, it would create 200 construction jobs, and we're committed to local hiring and minority and women employees, and that's why we brought Suffolk out to show that commitment. We also are committed to reaching out to the local nonprofits for job training to make sure that the residents in the area will be involved. We also want to have our residents on site, and we've heard that they're interested. I think Gene's interested in doing the slow and stop sign, so we're definitely getting our residents out there. We will also have permanent jobs created through the daycare and the retail space and also property management and maintenance. And the public benefits are preserving affordable housing. Once again, this is for 99 years compared to 15 or 35 years. So we think that's very important. So then a couple of years, the city's not scrambling for more affordable housing. The new daycare, new green space, and new neighborhood retail. So like I just mentioned, the project will cost around $120 million. The solution that we're providing or proposing is a public-private partnership that Al mentioned. And part of this public-private partnership is having a private developer, Joseph J. Corcoran Company, and the state and the city also invest. So currently, it's around 80% private money being invested into the project and 20% state and local money being invested into the project. In order to realize the 80% investment coming from the private capital community, we would need some support from the city in various approvals. Those approvals are the 40R zoning approval, which shows the zoning and the height, and then a waiver of permit fees, reinvestment of a portion of the 40R funds. I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, the city would receive $1.1 million for doing the Smart Growth Initiative because it's next to transit. And we would ask for a portion of those funds to go back into the project. We would also need a TIF, which is a tax increment financing, which would be kind of staggered for 15 years, going from 20% to 40% to 50%, and then us paying 100% after the 15 years, which would be around $800,000 a year in tax revenue to the city. We would also need a home rule petition for file sub bid. It's basically the way you contract subcontractors for a project, and also a home rule petition for land disposition. That would basically allow the Chelsea Housing Authority to lease us the land for 99 years. They can't sell it to us, and because they can't sell it to us, we can't have a home ownership on it either. This is an estimated timeline. For the greater portion of the past year, we've spent a lot of time on the feasibility study trying to figure out if this project was possible. We think we are. We think it is possible, and we want to move forward with the formal process of outreach and the city's permitting processes. And this is kind of an overview of showing on October 29th, the council voted for us to have this meeting today. We're having the meeting today on November 20th. Here, that's not my dominant hand. November 20th, and then we would move into the 40R process. This is another slide, although it looks the same. This shows the next year.
This isn't available for us to look at, right? This isn't printed out for us?
No.
Can you go back?
Yep.
Because I want to look at okay. I'm sorry, you can keep going, just.
No, it's okay.
All right.
Do you have any questions on this one?
I just want to write down the dates and exactly what the process is.
Okay.
Or is there a way that you can provide it to us at some point?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can definitely share this by email and.
Okay, go ahead.
And then this shows the process for starting the next year. These slides are to show how it's a very long process. We need several approvals from the city and from the state to get through this. So today's really just to start asking for us to be able to continue and start the actual permitting process and outreach. And I just kind of wanted to go over some of the outreach that we've done over the past couple of months. Like Al said, we think that the project is a lot better than it was a year ago, and a huge part of that is because we've had a lot of outreach to folks. We've engaged with the residents, we've had dinner sessions. We also had a neighborhood information session about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in these sessions, we're getting feedback, we're hearing people's concerns, and we're trying to be proactive. We also had a fall festival in October as a way to get the neighborhood out. We want to continue this conversation. We know that we still have a lot of work to go, and we can still have more input. We also have a new website where we're trying to promote a two-way dialogue for residents in the neighborhood in Chelsea to really interact with us and share with us their feedback and their concerns, or even support for the project. And also, an invite went out to everyone, to the city councilors. So you'll be able to follow the page for the InnisApartments.com website, and you'll see all the updates on the project. And that's our way to really engage with the community and have a two-way dialogue. The website also translates to 17 different languages, and that's also another way of us trying to be aware of Chelsea's diversity and engage as many folks as possible. That's our PowerPoint. Now we're ready for the questions.
Is there anything else, or are you ready for questions?
We're ready for questions.
You ready for questions? Okay. If my counselors don't mind, I have a list. I'm just curious, let's say, what happens 99 years from now with those 96 affordable housing? Does Corcoran get to keep them?
After 99 years of our lease with the CHA, is that the question?
With the 96?
After 99 years, it would revert back to the CHA, so they would own it again.
Okay. I'm a little confused, because when you first did the presentation, you said, we understand that parking is an issue and we're trying to figure it out, as if though you're still working on it. But it sounds like there's already meetings happening where you will be going in front of the planning board, as if though you already have a completed plan. So can you just kind of...
So we haven't met with the planning board yet, but you can go back to that slide. The meetings with the planning board would start in December, but would go all the way to the spring, maybe March or April. So the way it kind of works is you go through the permitting process. Everything's not definitive. We have multiple permits, so a 40R, a site plan, building, and construction. We would work with the city and the planning department for every iteration, and that's why a lot of things aren't finalized yet. So we haven't actually even started any process. So that's why I kept saying this is a draft and a proposal, because we know there's going to be more input and more discussions to really, finalize some things.
Okay, and those...
And just a reminder, this is just the beginning of the process right now.
Yeah. Those 50 parking spots, that are off-site, where exactly are they located?
Let me find that. So the 50 parking spots are located in the pre-flight lot on Eastern Ave. That's up here, right across from the Eastern Ave T-stop on the Silver Line.
Okay. Now, that isn't part of the DPA, the designated port area, is it?
A portion of the site is, but the front of the site on Eastern Ave, closer, isn't a part of the DPA in the article, Chapter 91, watertight land. So we can still lease parking spots from that portion of the site, maybe not the back side of it.
So if, let's say, there's 50 cars parked there, none of those vehicles will be parked in any part of the DPA, of the designated port area?
I think it would be up to pre-flight. As of right now, we don't know the details of that, but I would assume most of them would not be in the DPA if they weren't allowed to be.
Because the concern I have with that is, I'm sure you know, in the designated port area, you can't build anything long-term. It's only really good for about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so the concern is, then what happens with those? Parking is already an issue, and I know you guys are already shorted. We all know that. What happens at the end of those 10 years when they're, when you can't park there?
Yeah. So I think only that 10-year temporary parking permit is only for a portion of the site. And I can send a map afterwards, but it's like a sliver that comes through the middle. But kind of, you see in this picture, these parking spots wouldn't be affected by the DPA.
The 50 parking spots will not be affected?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know. What happens if you have this 4-family apartment and then all the kids go off to college and they get married and the family has to downsize? Does that unit still get preserved for another 4-family in need of housing?
Yes, the 96 units will always be under state public housing regulations, and nothing will change than what would happen today. Okay, so they fall under the same regulations.
And if that family moved out, someone from the wait list would move into that. It wouldn't be given to a market rate unit. It would remain affordable.
Okay. And who will manage those 96 units?
I'll answer. So our property management company would manage the units, but the CHA would still provide oversight of the public housing units.
Right. So we will manage to make sure that they're following the regulations, state regulations at all times.
Okay. The 40 middle-income units, is there a priority for Chelsea residents?
So we are working on that. We know that the city council is proposing a preference. We have various legal requirements, so we want to do the maximum preference that is allowed by state, local, and federal. So whichever one is legally allowed is the one that we're going to do. And we're also, I think I might have mentioned to some city councilors, for the marketing plan, we want it to be Chelsea focused. That's something that we can control. So if there's people that you know that we can reach out to, or certain communities that you think would want to rent there, we can incorporate that into the marketing plan and make sure that we're targeting those people in Chelsea.
Because I think you mentioned in the presentation that that was preserved for maybe police or firefighters in the city. So is the idea that that's what you're trying to do?
They're not preserved just for police and firefighters.
I know, yeah.
But people like that, and people, teachers, city employees, anyone who may be qualifying in that middle income unit would be qualified for that, and we would try to reach all of those folks.
Okay. A couple more, and then I'll pass the mic. How secure is the 80% private funding that's going into this project? And what happens if Corcoran goes broke in the middle of it? What happens to those 96 units?
I can answer that. So we have a lot of legal documents with the CHA. We are on the hook if something goes wrong, legally responsible for that. We think that the private capital isn't committed yet, but we think that there's investment there and investors who are willing to invest in this project. Part of that is because it's mission-based, that we're replacing 96 units of housing and going for a mixed income model. We think a lot of investors are attracted to that. It also helps that we're close to the Silver Line, and that's helping attract investors. So it's not committed. I won't lie and say it is, but we think that we'll find investors to really invest in this project.
Okay, and then as far as outreach, in the end, it said that you did outreach to other stakeholders, did sessions with Innis residents, but there are a number of residents in the neighborhood that feel that they have not been informed, including me up here on the city council until I reached out to Al, and he was lucky enough to invite me to a meeting. So are we really at the point where we're ready to present to the city? Have we really done our due diligence and reaching out to everyone in the community?
I think so. I think we know we have a lot more outreach to go, but we think that we're at least at the phase to start that, the formal process for outreach and permitting. For the neighbors, I've personally flyered 400 homes in that entire neighborhood. So I did that twice for the Fall Festival in October and also for the neighborhood information session. We also have the website. We're trying to be as out there as possible, but recognizing that sometimes people just won't hear it. But if there's any recommendations of how to really engage people, we have open ears.
Okay.
Yeah, let me say, for the last year, we were really trying to close that financial gap, about the $25 million, once we knew that the entire project had to be prevailing wage. So there was really no outreach going on because we didn't have a feasible project. And once we did that, we started to do that work again.
Okay, thank you. And then something that I have been feeling really passionate about, and I live in that area, and I know how bad parking is now. The impact that this project will have in that neighborhood would really totally debilitate the quality of life for a lot of people. My question is, would you be willing to enter into a contract with the planning board of the city stating that if you require parking relief, in which you will, that you will enter into a contract with your tenant that they won't participate in our residential program as to not further burden our streets?
Yes, we would be open to that and working with the city to explore that further.
Okay, and the last question, because I'm pretty sure everyone is tired of Damali. What are the city council approvals, the things that we as a body will be voting on related to this project?
So the city council approvals would be, oops, that's not the slide. These are some of the approvals. The 40R would be the first one. Also,
And can you explain that as if though I was a 5-year-old?
Yep. So I have a couple of slides here. So a 40R is a tool that's used in Massachusetts to promote affordable housing and housing production to add to the city's housing stock. With it comes a zoning overlay that says that you can build the building that you desire. but it also provides the city with money. So the city would receive around $1.1 million for having the Smart Growth Initiative. This would also, connected to this, is money associated to schools. So if you had any new students coming into the project because of the development, the state would fund the city for that increase in students. Sorry to go between the slides. So with 40R is one of those things. We would need the city's approval for the TIF, the tax increment financing, which basically allows a partial exemption for up to 20 years. We've asked for 15 years. We would also need the city council's approval for the home rule petition, as far as the file sub-bid and the land disposition.
So if any of these three things don't go through, then that's a no for the project.
Yes, unfortunately, the project relies on all of these to make it possible, and that's kind of getting to your question of how do we attract private capital, and part of this is getting these different approvals.
Okay, councilors. Councilor Prolatonda.
So you said that the project is going to be done under so many phases, and 96 people are going back into those units.
Oh, that's another question.
And they're going to be mixed with the 40 middle income and the 194 market rate units. So when phase one is completed, do all 96 people go back, or do they have to wait for the other phases and they're integrated individually?
No, what we would do is the first phase, where there are 4 buildings, we would move the people out of there. Most of them will be going into other units that the CHA has. And then we would tear those buildings down, and it would take about 18 months to build what's going to be one building there. Once that building is built, then the people from phase 2 will move directly into that building. And then we will tear down the second part of the units, okay, the other 4 buildings. So that's the process.
So they'll all be going in gradually, they're all not going back at once?
Not going back at once, because if everyone went back at once, then we would end up with a rich door, poor door. We would have all of the public housing residents living in one building, where we want to make sure that they're spread throughout the development. Okay, so that's truly an integrated mixed income development.
Do we have any idea how much the middle income and the market rate rents are going to be for those particular units?
We don't have an idea now. We have like a ballpark, probably around, say, $1,900 for a 1-bedroom, but it changes based on the market, and it's based on HUD federal calculations.
So is it $1,900 for the middle income ones, or for the 194 market rate ones?
Probably $1,900 for the middle income, around that size.
So market rate could be close to $3,000?
Depending on the unit size, so maybe a 3-bedroom could be around $3,000, but it's still too early to tell, since we're about 4 or 5 years out, or 2 to 4 years out from completion. It depends on the market, so how the market changes is kind of how it'll be calculated.
Okay. And on the parking situation, which we all know that's a big problem, how do we decide who gets the parking spaces? The parking spaces included with some of the units? Is that an extra fee that the housing authority is going to charge for those spaces?
Our residents could not be charged any more fees than what they pay now to us. So that means parking would be free. That means their utilities are included in their rent. They pay 32% of their income towards their rent, and then the rest is paid by the housing authority.
So the 96 people that are going back, they're guaranteed a parking space?
Yes, if they have a car, yes, they would be able to park there for free.
And then under the middle income and the market rate ones, how do we decide who gets parking spaces on those two ends? I mean, does it go with the market rate people first because they're paying the big bucks, so we give them a space?
Right.
Or does it go to the other ones afterwards?
I just want to make one more point, though.
Okay.
Historically, we have used, our public housing residents have used about 50% of the spaces that we allowed, which was about 90 that we had. So all of them just don't have vehicles, and they've used about half of them. Okay, you can answer that.
And for the parking for the middle income and the market rate, we haven't decided yet. That's going to be part of the ongoing process, and we also are looking to engage the residents in those discussions. So come a little bit further down the road.
So, and that's the same with both of them, the middle and the market rate ones, right? Those two will be paying for them, I assume, right?
Possibly. It hasn't been decided yet. We still have to figure out the market, how things happen, and also have the conversations with the residents and the IRA to figure out.
Were there, other than the parking spaces that we're allowing, the 226, the 50 extra, is there any visitor parking spacing there at all? If they have guests over, is there anywhere for them to park, or will they have to park on Chelsea streets?
There will be parking within the building. We haven't figured out how many yet, but there will be additional ones inside so that they won't be on the street.
Okay.
And that's really required of the market rate. We wouldn't get renters if we didn't have that.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to ask one more thing. Out of the 96 units that are currently at the housing development right now, how many of them are vacant?
Right now, in Phase 1, we have 9 units vacant, and in Phase 2, we have 6.
No. What do you mean Phase 1? You haven't started yet, right?
That's correct. But when we look at the buildings up here, Phase 1, where Phase 1 would go, there are 9 vacancies, and in Phase 2, there are 6.
I mean, currently.
Because we have a waiver from the state not to fill those units
Okay, so.
because of the redevelopment.
All right, so currently only 85?
81.
81, okay, got it, all right. And then the other thing is, I really want this presentation in writing because I don't feel like I have enough information here, and I can't absorb that. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. But I'm looking at these 3 things that you want us to vote on, the 40R, the TIF, the home rule petition, and then the home rule petition, it says we need it for a file, sub-bid, and land disposition. What does that mean? I don't feel like we have the information that we need in order to make an informed decision. So if at some point that can be given to this body, that would be extremely helpful.
Yes, we can definitely do that. We also have a slide. So I want to be mindful and allow enough time for City Council, your questions. So I try to keep the slide as brief as possible.
No, we need as much information as we need in order to be able to make an informed decision. So don't be mindful of my time.
Okay. So the questions on the TIF and the home rule?
Well,
or
yeah,
just the home rule?
Yeah, because, yes, this.
Okay.
We want to know more about it. What does a sub-bid mean, a file sub-bid mean?
Yep. So the file sub-bid is a process that's required in Massachusetts where you select bids from, I'm sorry about that, you select bids from your subcontractors. And if a bid, basically if you get 3 bids and one is the lowest, you have to select the lowest one. Sometimes it may be the lowest just to win the bid, but it may not be the highest quality craftsmanship, or that bid may increase later when you get onto the project. So this is a way to ensure, by having this file sub-bid petition, it would allow us to select the subcontractors based on their qualifications rather than just selecting the lowest bid, which most likely would rise anyway.
Which would open the door to be able to provide prevailing wage and higher.
No. So
No,
this
it
is
won't.
completely separate.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so this is
okay.
only just the way that we collect the bids from the subcontractors. The prevailing wage is completely separate, and we're paying prevailing wage across the
All
project.
the way across the board,
Across
subcontractors,
trades,
everyone.
Yep. And we're also looking to have union participation
Okay.
in addition to the prevailing wage.
Okay. And the other land disposition?
The public housing land disposition, this has been done in other parts of the state, and it's very routine, but it basically allows the Chelsea Housing Authority to lease us their land. It's just a kind of like a technicality you have to go through, and we would just sign a lease with the CHA saying it's 99 years. At the end of the 99 years, it goes back to the CHA.
The entire building?
Entire building, all 3 acres, everything on it.
And how would you sustain that? I know it's a question for 99 years, so I'll check in with you then.
Okay.
But
I can answer a little bit of that, but part of it being sustained is the mixed income model. By having the market rate tenants pay or cross-subsidize low income, it maintains the quality. And I can just show you a picture really quickly. So these are some of the mixed income communities that our partner company has developed, as a better way to say it. This is Harbor Point in Dorchester, and this is Kings Lynn. This is 35 years and probably 40 years for Harbor Point, and this shows how the mixed income model works. There's enough money in the system and the operating funds to make sure that the property's upkept, the quality, the maintenance, so we're not running into the same issues that we currently have at the Innis Apartments.
And currently, the Housing Authority gets about $800 a month on average from our residents in Innis. That's for 2, 3, and 4-bedroom units. That's a combination of the rents that we receive from the tenants and the subsidy that we get from the state. When you look at the market rate units, a 2-bedroom might be going for about $2,400. So we're using the private units to cross-subsidize the 96 units of state public housing. That's why these numbers are set up as they are, because we do need to have that help to be able to, keep the units up. And by law, we cannot raise people's rent. If we have a tenant who, loses their job and their income goes to zero, then they pay zero rent.
Okay.
So they just pay 32% of their rent.
Thank you. Councilor Recupero and then Councilor Bishop.
I have a couple of questions. I live in that area.
Can you use your microphone, Councilor, please? Thank you.
I live in that area. That area is the most congested place you can live right now. You can't get out, especially in the morning. You only have a total of 275 parking spots, right? You're going to have 330 apartments. It's less than one car. I was under the impression that you had secured more parking spots. You at least had one car for each. On this presentation, didn't say that. You told the total that you came up was that. So that's one issue I have. The next issue I have is this. On the other market rate value, right? Market rate could be anything, like neighborhood developers. So there will be Section 8s will be able to go in those units too, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, they will be.
Okay. So what guarantee is there that Chelsea people will be able to go to those units? Because I understand that 96 units, those people are guaranteed. But the rest of them, nothing is guaranteed. So it doesn't necessarily say you're building these units for Chelsea people. You're only guaranteeing the 96 that are there. That's understandable. That's a good thing. You want them back. You're creating jobs. I'm in favor of all that. But the point I'm trying to get is all the rest of them, there's no guarantee that Chelsea people are going to live there.
Well, we have over 500 Section 8 vouchers, the Chelsea Housing Authority, that we issue to people, mostly residents. And they're looking for places to live all the time. And again, they're only paying 30% of their income, and then the rest is paid through the subsidy.
So you got 500 of them that are from the city of Chelsea alone?
Most of them are from the city of Chelsea. We have people that port in, some that move out, but yes.
So if those Section 8 people that are here, right, would they get priority to go back to those units? If they have, let's say, market rate, which Section 8 pays almost the whole thing. They can't afford it otherwise. So if they have it, and they live in this city, right, and they wish to move to those apartments, would they get priority to go back to those apartments?
Yeah. This project does not have Section 8s attached to them. They're not project-based Section 8s. That's anyone who has a Section 8 could show up and ask to rent there. That's different than being attached to the units, okay? So these are not project-based Section 8s.
I understand what you say, Mr. Ewan, but the point is this. We have 500 people in Chelsea that have Section 8s, right? If they wish to go to those apartments, right, would they get priority to go to those apartments? That's the point I'm trying to get at.
For the affordable units, for the 96, I don't know, you can do a preference through the Chelsea Housing Authority. For private units, the market rate and the middle income, there's only but so many preferences and guarantees that you can give for Chelsea residents. And I think Councilor Damali had asked earlier about the preference. We want to work for any preference that's allowed here legally by law. We're willing to do. We want to do on the project. We want as many Chelsea residents as possible. But being a private developer, we can't tell people, we can't discriminate against fair housing laws. Basically, what I'm trying to say, we want to attract Chelsea residents. We'll change our marketing plan so it's tailored to Chelsea residents as much as possible. And we'll try to accommodate the preference, but legally there's some limitations that we have, or else we'll be violating fair housing.
Councilor Recupero, excuse me, I just want to jump in, because my understanding is that with a Section 8 certificate, there are federal guidelines and a certain amount of money that they're willing to pay for an apartment. And I'm assuming that these market rate apartments aren't going to be anything that even comes close to what a Section 8 certificate will cover. It's also been my experience that a lot of people that have Section 8 certificates are having to move outside of the city because the rents are so high. So realistically speaking, are we talking about the market rate units, or are we only talking about the middle income? Because it's not adding up to me.
Yeah, I think we're confusing a couple of different things here. Okay?
If
And
I
this-
have a Section 8 certificate, never mind the 96, that's already preserved. I have a Section 8 certificate, and I see this beautiful building on Central Ave. I want an apartment.
Right. Again, that's a function of a number of things. It has to do with the fair market rents that the government sets up, HUD's payment standards. Sometimes the payment standards go to 110%. I know there's a study going on right now because Boston, Cambridge, and the state have appealed what the payment standards are, the fair market rents are. So they're looking at them because it's so much higher in Boston, and a lot of people cannot lease up with Section 8s right now, so they're trying to get those raised. But again, that's a bigger problem. It really doesn't, affect this project right now.
So it sounds like the answer is no. Go ahead, Recupero. Sorry, Mr.
I think it's, like Al is saying, it's so far ahead that we don't know what the fair market rents will be in the future. The Section 8s the price may be within the market rates. We also don't know the market rate.
Yeah, but
rents.
dealing with the information we have now, it's probably not feasible, right? For a Section 8 certificate to cover a regular apartment aside from the 96, it's probably not feasible.
I can
right?
look it up and get back to you tomorrow
Yeah,
on it,
okay,
because
all right.
I haven't looked at it yet, because we
Yeah.
don't know what the market rate rents will be in the future,
Okay.
and also the
All
fair
right,
market.
Councilor Recupero, sorry about that.
Section 8 gives you for a two-bedroom, I think it goes up to $2,000, and they pay like $2,500 for a three-bedroom. So they will be feasible within the units you have, because that's what the fair market rate value is, what Section 8 is paying. In Boston, they're going up to $2,800 on some apartments. So those units will be available to the people that have Section 8 in this city that would like to go to those units. So the whole point I'm trying to get is, these people have this 500 certificates from this city, and they come to you, right? And they say to you, I have a certificate, and this is what it covers. And they come from Chelsea. They should be the ones to go in there prior to anybody else, because they're already here in this city, and they can afford with the Section 8 to go. Mr. Ewan says we have 500 of them total in this city that are Section 8s. The total amount of units you have is 330. So there's 96 of them is already guaranteed. So you have plenty Section 8 people that will be able to go in those units and still be affordable. What I'm trying to get is, how many of them will be able, I know Mr. Ewan says that you can't discriminate, you can't do it, you're not bound by that. But is it, we the council passed something that said, if the city gives you funds or any type of assistance, right, Chelsea people would have to have priority. So we passed it, it's there. So would you abide by what we passed?
Yes. Yes, we will. Yeah.
All
I don't know if you
right.
can hear.
So the people from this city that have Section 8 that can live there will get priority.
So the kind of the way I've answered it earlier, yes, we want as many Chelsea residents as possible to live in the apartment. There's nothing about us that,
Then
doesn't
I'm
want
all for
Chelsea.
you.
Yeah, we don't.
If you're gonna do that, I'm all for whatever you do. I'm for the Chelsea people that live here. I want them to stay here. I don't want them to get. And if they have 500 Section 8 certificates and they wish and desire to live in those new apartments, they should have opportunity to live there.
Do you have any other questions, Councilor Recupero? Questions?
Huh?
Do you have any other questions?
Like, what other questions are? The only other question I have is, this project was gonna take, what, 3 years to build, 2, 3?
Take 4 to 5 for both
1,
phases.
5. So with the equipment, right, that you're gonna get there, right? Because we having an issue now with equipment, right? Where would you put it? Would you put it in the streets outside? Or would you have the contractors that come in have a special place where they will leave their equipment?
So we haven't gotten that far into the project yet, since we have so many processes. I think that will come up more in like the building permit and the demolition, but that also will come to the city council for input. That will be part of our conversations.
You would let us know, what would you do it? You wouldn't put all the equipment outside, right?
Again, we're still at the very beginning of this process, and all we're looking for is the opportunity to move forward with it so that we can address questions such as that.
Okay, Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Cooper. Councilor Bishop? Can you use the microphone, Councilor?
Can you tell me how many parking spaces zoning currently requires for a project this size? Either you or John DePriest may be able to.
Well,
Can
Tell
you
me
come
the
up to the
number that they are
microphone, John?
required.
I'm sorry.
If
Do
it
you
were
want
a
me to answer,
private
John?
developer coming in with 330 units, how many parking spaces would be required?
I think the max allowed is 2 spaces per unit.
I'm not talking about the max. What's the minimum requirement?
It's 1.25,
1.5?
1.5 per unit.
Can you give us that number, Councilor Bishop?
Sure. That's 495. Now, you guys feel that the parking that you propose, 226 parking spaces, will be sufficient for that project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Currently, at the Innes Apartments on Central Avenue right now, how many parking permits are issued by the Chelsea Housing Authority?
Right now, today, it's 48.
Excuse me? 48?
48.
So you have to take 48 off of the 226. So that leaves 178 spaces if nobody gets another, nobody else that's there now gets another vehicle and is looking for a parking. So we're down to 178 spaces for 230 units, roughly. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you explain a little bit to us why you feel that'll be enough?
Yes. So a huge part of that is because you already accounted for the 96 families only using about half the parking spaces, 45 to 48. So that's a big part of it. And then also we think with the new location of the Silver Line stop that a lot of residents will want to use the train. It's very expensive to have a car and own it. Also, if you're worried about traffic, we think a lot of people will move to the site because they want to get on the Silver Line and go downtown in 20 minutes. The Silver Line, which was added in April, it only takes 20 minutes, and there's half of the route is dedicated, so you're avoiding traffic in the tunnel and as you get out through Chelsea. We think that's a huge asset. We also want to attract people who want to use transit. That helps out the entire city. It helps alleviate traffic, and we're trying to encourage other modes of transportation. It's better for the environment, and it's better for the city of Chelsea.
Okay, do you and the developer that you're working with, I know the president asked this question already about the folks that are renting not participating in the City of Chelsea program for resident permit parking. You guys are willing to go along with that, and is your developer willing to go along with that? That they will not be eligible to get a resident permit parking sticker if they're from this particular project?
So I'm with the development company. We are willing to have that discussion. I don't know the details of it yet, and I know that the city council wanted to work on that, but we are willing to entertain that and have that discussion to see what's feasible and if that's the route the city wants to go with.
I think otherwise, the councilors are fearful that vehicles from this project are going to flood the streets in that area, and that the residents are going to wind up suffering because of that. I'm sure you understand that. That's what the key issue seems to be to me, is the parking.
I mean, we want to be mindful of the residents and the community and the issues that you face. And it's a difficult decision. We know that parking is a problem everywhere. That's why, in response to that, we were trying to get those additional spaces off-site so that we can be responsive to the concerns of the council. So we are also doing other things, ride share and bicycle racks, and so we're looking to find other modes of transportation that people would be willing to use. And it's going to be difficult. There's no perfect project. What we do try to do is look at its entirety and how it affects people, and the people that live there also, okay? That we want to do what we can to give new housing to those people, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to mitigate those concerns, and we're willing to work with the city.
I think that we're going to need to hear a little more about how those remaining 178 spaces are going to be allocated to the 230 units. And is the developer planning on charging extra money for a parking spot? How is that going to work?
So it's still too early to tell what the actual program, it's too early to determine how we're going to charge for it. And that's a conversation that we're going to have with the residents, with the city as we get through this. I know there's some concerns about charging for parking, and we want to understand all sides of it before we make decisions.
And again, I just want to reiterate that we're really at the beginning of this process, and we just want to be able to move forward so that we can review some of those things and see if we can come up with solutions that will address those.
My final question is, Phase 1 and Phase 2. What happens if Phase 1 is built and it doesn't go? What happens if you can't rent those apartments at market rate and, middle rate? What happens? Is there a danger of Phase 2 not appearing?
I think there's always a danger. That's just real estate. It's very risky, but we'll have legal documents and agreements with the Chelsea Housing Authority. We will be on the hook for Phase 1 and Phase 2 and working with the residents, because when we move people out, we just can't say, okay, we're done, the market has gone down. We'll have to figure out the solution and rectify it. So that will be on the developer.
So there will be a guarantee.
There's performance bonds that would be part of it, I'm sure.
That'll be guaranteed that Phase 1 and Phase 2 will be built, no matter what the market, no matter what
Yes,
happens.
we want to make sure that there is, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, we want to make sure that's guaranteed that they will be built.
Thank you.
Councilor Garcia.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm actually going to ask you, can you go back to the slide where you talk about the guarantees that you provide, that you plan to, yes, your commitments. I was able to attend one of the preliminary meetings that you had at the very beginning of this project, and I've noticed that you've made incredible strides, so I do commend you and recognize for the incredible strides that you've made since that first meeting until what you're presenting now. I know there are stakeholders here who have been advocating and who definitely made sure to really speak for the rights of many of those 96 families, and I know some folks are here, and I can see that you've listened and that you've made the stride for that. What I'm curious about is, we're talking about, I understand that parking is an issue, and I understand that this construction phase will have spillover effects in the neighborhood, including many of my constituents. However, I want to know, and maybe if you can describe to me or walk me through the process, how are you guaranteeing, where is there a written statement that you guarantee that these 96 families will definitely have a home? And the reason why I ask that is because clearly this construction project will not take weeks, it will not take months, it will take years. And that transition itself will place an impact on these 96 families in many ways, right? And these things have been brought up by members of the Chelsea Collaborative. They have been brought up by many of the residents of this area. How are we going to get kids to school? What are those buzzing, where are they moving? How are we going to get them to school? All these issues are going to come up. So in this process, are you considering this? It seems like you are, but can you tell me, is there a written statement where people can go back to and say, okay, we are definitely guaranteeing that you will have a home after this project?
Yes, absolutely. And let me state that we've been working closely with the Ennis Resident Association, and they've been using the services of the Chelsea Collaborative and also Greater Boston Legal Services. So we will have a legal document that says that they will, in fact, come back to those units. We're required to anyways by the state, the HCD, who is involved in this. So it's not like we're just doing it on our own and negotiating. So there are going to be requirements. It was guaranteed from the very beginning when we first applied to get these funds. That was one of the requirements, that all 96 families would be able to come back to the development. Okay, so, and we will be, we are working with again, the IRA to make sure that all of the residents sign a document that we've signed, both the Housing Authority and our development partner, guaranteeing that those people will have those rights.
Okay. And will the document be accessible in different languages?
Yes.
Great. Great.
And also, just one thing to mention about the relocation and the residents, we're hiring a housing provider, HOU, which is Housing Opportunities Unlimited, and they will work with the residents. So they're actually already engaged, and they've been a part of our outreach and are attending our weekly meetings. And they'll be meeting with the residents to figure out how to best help them in the move, what they will need. We're also trying to be mindful of children, families with children. So we're committed to this. We also have service providers on our team to make sure that this is the easiest transition for the residents as possible.
Is there who is in charge of that oversight?
For the resident relocation, that's HOU, Housing Opportunities Unlimited. They're kind of the premier relocation provider in the area. They're the go-to person. They have maybe 50 years of experience. That's their area of expertise.
Okay, great, thank you.
However, the residents will be involved working with the Housing Authority and my development partners to work out the details of that and how we're going to do it fairly for all the residents.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Lopez.
Hi, Al. Thank you for coming here tonight. My question is, you said you're going to relocate all these people who live in this 96 apartment. For the people who have children, you guys going to provide school buses for them to assist to go back to the school in Chelsea?
Can you repeat the earlier part of your question? I think we might have missed one word, like preference.
Do you going to provide transportation for the children to go to the school in Chelsea?
Yes, that's a part of our relocation expenses. So our first thing is trying to have as many school children stay on the site as possible, and that's a way to have no disruption. But there will be funds to help with the transportation for students getting to school.
All right. My next question is the TIF that you're looking for. How many years and how much are you looking for?
I'll jump to that slide. This is another slide I put outside in the sake of time. So we're looking for a TIF for 15 years, and it would go up each groups of 5 years. So the first 5 years, we would pay around 20% of taxes. And then the next 5 years, years 10 or 5 to 10, we would pay 40%. And then the last 5 years, we would pay 50%. The average is around $250,000 in taxes over the TIF, and that's compared to the $3,000 that the city currently receives. So this is, mentioning those numbers again, over the 15 years of the TIF, the city received $3.4 million. If the project did not go forward, the city would only receive $51,000. So it's 3.4 compared to 51. And that's what these blue boxes represent. The blue is the CHA's current tax assessment, payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot program, and the orange shows how much taxes that we would be paying over the 15 years. So even with the TIF in place, we're still paying taxes.
Thank you. My next question is, I'm really worried about parking also. I know everybody mentioned parking. Are you guys going to do parking level or going to go underground? You ever thought about that? Or?
So the parking, to go underground is very expensive. And as you know, we're facing a gap in funding. So we redesigned the building. So most of the parking will be at surface level or on the second floor. We try to hide parking as much as possible because nobody wants to look out at parking. So we'll have parking spots in the first building, A, and then also parking spots in building C. Building C will be around will be 2 floors. And building A will be 2 floors, but we're taking advantage of the slope because it is a huge slope on Central Ave in Watts. And so we would be building into the slope, which is partially underground.
Okay. Are you guys going to reach out to all the neighbors around Watt Street, Willow? You guys reaching out to them, to the neighbors, right?
Yes, we've already reached out on 2 instances. Also, I've walked around and tried to see people. But we're hoping as we start the next phase, if we're allowed to start the next phase, that would be the formal process of reaching out to residents. So we flyered 400 homes, and that's, I think, went up this far and down, all the way down to the Boys and Girls Club. So we flyer about 400 homes trying to engage residents before the formal process starts, but we obviously want to continue the outreach and engaging. And if you have any recommendations of how to reach out to people, I would love them, because we want to have as much conversations as possible with the residents in the surrounding community.
Okay, thank you. My last question is, I see a lot of people over here tonight. I think they all are union members, and Are you going to hire Chelsea people as a preference to do the job, or how that works?
Yes, we will. So that's why we had Suffolk Construction in here earlier speaking. We are committed to local hiring, minorities and women, and also we want to have Chelsea residents. We want to have our own residents who are in the building. So we've, as we've done our dinner sessions and reached out to our residents, we've said that we're committed to hiring local. We want to get people trained as early as possible so these jobs are available for them, and there's no reason why they can't be. We're also reaching out to Building Pathways, ROCA, all the different local nonprofits, just to start as a way to get them in that conversation and give them experience that will be helpful for years to come.
Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Back to parking, I know it's a lot of parking questions, but I know there's a lot of assuming going on with parking. Can you break down for all the buildings you see, that you oversee, not just this project, the Clinton, the Lock Street projects, how many people own a car? And compare it to people that own cars in One North? Because I think it's going to be like a better understanding of how many people might have a car, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I think I missed the first part of the question.
So how many people in the other buildings currently own vehicles?
That we own, or
No,
just
in
in
the
city of
housing
Chelsea?
projects, right?
Yeah, all the housing projects.
Oh, okay. I think that's a question for you, for all the housing projects.
Or a rough
When
estimate.
you say all the housing.
The one
projects,
you oversee.
So all 914 units on 8 sites? Is that what
Yes.
you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't have that on the top of my head, but we can get that information for you.
And, okay, and then probably just I wanted to probably get the number for One North, because I'm pretty sure this building's gonna be very similar to the One North building. And if you could possibly see how many people are parking there, or own vehicles there, because that number will probably compare to how many will own here. So we'll have an understanding of how many parking spaces that we possibly will actually need. Because we might not need that much. I know parking's an issue, but I think there's more factors that can go in, I guess. I'm starting to assume or think.
We can get that information for you and explore that with you.
Is that it? Anybody have any other questions? No. Just out of curiosity, if we were to open it to the public to speak, how many people want to speak? Can you raise your hands? All right. Because we have, I was scared that everyone would raise their hand and then we wouldn't have the time. And we'd have to continue this for a later date, but I think this is manageable. So, are you guys ready for questions or comments or whatever? Okay, so if you can come up and speak, you have to state your name and address for the record. You only have a couple of minutes just to be mindful of everyone, so everyone has a chance to speak, please. And Ronnie and Al, I think you still have this microphone if it makes it easier if someone has a question for you to answer.
Hi, my name is Jean Fogo. I'm a Chelsea resident for many years, and I do live in the projects. And I think we need better
you guys can
community,
stand right
but
here.
we need better housing.
Stand there with the microphone.
Because the conditions are really not good. You know, the buildings are old, and the heating system and the windows and stuff like that is a concern for us because we'd have to live there. You know what I'm saying? The cold and the water seeping through the windows and stuff. We need approved housing so we could live like everybody else. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Certainly. My name is Minor Perez.
Minor Perez.
From 750 Dorchester Avenue. First, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, City Councilwoman, for the wonderful job you're doing trying to move the City of Chelsea forward with so many challenges. I am here in the capacity of representing your neighbors, Chelsea residents that happen to be proud members of the union, the Carpenters Union in Local 2168. We know there's so many challenges. As far as affordable housing goes, we cannot build it fast enough. As soon as we build one project, we have people in line already that they need housing. We live in very special times with our current president and administrators. where you don't have, and we're not going to have much of federal funding to build it. That's why we're going to see these partnerships being established where private developers and the housing authorities are going to have to work together to build housing. Other challenges, banks' interest rates are going up. Cost of materials are going up so fast. I can tell you in the past year, I saw projects being put on hold because lack of federal funding and the prices of materials. We're talking about 10-15% increase on projects. So with that, again, I thank you very much. We're here in full support of the project, and anything we can do to help, you have our support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Alexis Burgos. I live in 61 Watt Street, apartment 1. And I also live with my mom. Her name's Leticia. She couldn't make it. She's sick and she's disabled. So I'm here in behalf of both of us, in behalf of all my neighbors and my, and friends that I have in the apartment complex that I live in on Watt Street, which is Central Street. Also, I've been there for off and on, because we had first lived on Central side, then they moved us to the Watt Street side. So we've probably been there more than 15 years, I want to say. But I know this is not an easy task on both sides. And I believe that what they're trying to do for us is something great. And I believe that, we all should be proud where we live, and our kids should also be proud. And when someone asks us where do we live, we shouldn't just say, oh, we just live in Chelsea. I don't want to tell you where I live because I live in these old projects, and I want to be proud because I love this city, and I don't, I'm hoping that when I leave this planet, I'm going to still be in Chelsea.
That's right.
And I feel that what Al's doing and the Inn's apartment and everybody else involved in this project, everybody is putting in the work. It's not going to be an easy task, I know that, but I believe that, everybody here, when they go home, they're proud of where they live. We also want to be proud where we live. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, and I hope your mother feels better.
Hello, good evening. My name is Bertrand Taverna. I'm the chairman of the Housing Authority. I'm also a resident of the neighborhood. I'm a lifelong resident. Grew up on Marlborough Street. I live currently at 148 Grove Street. I'm in support of this project for the opportunity it presents for the 96 residents that live here, for the 40 potential residents that we are looking to attract with affordable housing, and for the 194 new residents that we hope to provide housing for, and the opportunities and investment that that represents to the city. This partnership has heard and tried to address the concerns of the city in this development and the presentation that is set forth here tonight. We ask you to approve the 40R zoning, allow the waiver of the Chapter 149, Section 44F, filed sub-bid only, grant the waiver under Chapter 121B, Section 26B, for public housing land distribution. Thank you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Of course.
My name is Tony Hernandez. I'm a 48 years Chelsea resident. I stood here a year ago in opposition to this project, and I was in the project. It was the issue with prevailing wages, a waiver to prevailing wage. Okay. Some of the people that are living in this building right now will be able. Let me go back. I'm a union official here too. Okay. It's not just the carpenters and the laborers, it's the painters, it's the plumbers, it's others out there, okay? They're fighting for prevailing wage. Make sure it stays up there. So prevailing wage give me the opportunity to become a middle class. And I'm sitting here today making a commitment and to the residents of these 96 residents out there, my union is willing to take some of these kids up there and put them in an apprenticeship program and be able to work. If some of my contractors, our contractors get jobs in there, they'll be working on site. We have members in here. We have members in here. I'm not talking about the members we have. I'm talking about people that live in those projects right now who have an opportunity to better their life and become, union members and become middle class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is David Bohuniak. I live at 149 Essex Street, so resident of Chelsea. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words. First off, I want to preface this by saying I am really excited about this project. I moved to Chelsea, and I knew the Silver Line was coming. I personally come from a broken family, financially disadvantaged, and I've been on food stamps myself, and I'm really excited to see what this can do because I know what not only transit-oriented development, which this is, but mixed-income housing can bring to the community. So I'm very excited about this. I think it's really exciting, and I don't want to take away anything from that. This is about housing. This is about giving people homes, and that's what the focus of this project is all about. With that said, one thing that I wish we could maybe be a little bit more open-minded about, or I wish I understood personally better, is how we arrived at the amount of retail that's included in this project. Because another thing we should keep in mind is that, we're presuming a lot of people are going to be getting around on cars, and I realize that, but a lot of people are also going to be taking the T to work and maybe not living with the car. And as it stands, Central Ave, in my opinion, is pretty disadvantaged retail-wise. It's a half-hour walk if you want to get to Market Basket, or $5 to take the T to get there. Yeah, you can go to Stop and Compare, but I think there's a huge opportunity for the city to do something fantastic for its residents in the form of this project. And as it stands, I think there's 2,000 square feet of retail, which I don't think would allow for any sort of opportunity to buy your staple foods or anything like that. You can go to your convenience stores, but they're going to charge you a surcharge if you pay by credit card or anything like that. So I guess my only point of feedback is if there were any opportunity for the scope of this project to expand, while obviously keeping in mind the importance of housing and the residents and everything like that, I think this could be a rare opportunity for the city to offer more in the way of retail on Central Ave, giving people access to food, pharmacy, medicine, things like that, because as it stands, it's very difficult in that area for the thousands of people that live there, the thousands of people that commute to the airport via that parking lot and the airport shuttle, the thousands of people that take the T, and the thousands of people that would be moving in if this is built. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Shalene Semeze. I live in 72 Willow Street, apartment 1. Basically, what I want to say is that because of the condition of the housings, apartments, I have 2 kids that's actually now sick. One is affected with the lead paints in the house, and the other one suffer with asthma because of the molds that's in the toilets. And so I think it would be a good thing for us who lives in there to have the opportunity to live a better life with our kids. I can't move out because of my financial. And if they provide that for me and my kids, that would be like a great deal for me, especially. That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian De Jesus. I live in 72 Willow Street, apartment 3. This is my stepfather, Ricardo Figueroa. He lives with me also, and I'm speaking for their behalf. In my experience, I've been living in the housing for 12 years, and I really had a great experience living there. But the condition is how we're living is now, it's not great for us. For the things how it is like our ceiling is peeling. We're having mold. We're seeing mice, roaches all the time. And we don't want to live like that, especially living in the city of Chelsea. Especially, we want Chelsea to move on, to look a beautiful city, to say how proud we live in Chelsea, how beautiful Chelsea is if we recreate these new apartments for us. Especially, here's my question, why are there new apartments building but not for us? We want our city to move on. We want our city to look great. And that's why I want this apartment to be approved. Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Reggie Limos. I moved over here to Chelsea about 21 years ago. And I've been in projects for around 20 years. Got married. A bunch of bad stuff happened. But I find myself the thing I want to say about it is about the housing. It's a great place for living, except like when it's too many cockroaches around, mice, and stuff like that. We try get rid of them, but there's no way. You cannot kill them all. And we need a better place to live. So, whatever you guys decided, it has to be fine with me. But either way, I just want to let you know, guys, you guys doing for Chelsea. I moved over here, and I really love it. When I first came over here, it's like too many bad people around. And a couple of years went by, and I started seeing a big change. Things started getting better and better and better every single day. And today, Chelsea is going beautiful. I like that. And the president of Chelsea make like a reunion with us in Boys and Girls Club about the parking spots, the people who's going to the airport. And I told him, right there in his face, that fault is yours. You're the one who have to put like meters all around Chelsea. So, if it has like a coin in a meter, the car is going to be removed. As simple as that. And he did it. He put meters all over the city of Chelsea. I'm really proud of that. It's a great city. Thank you.
Thank you. Pull the mic down so we can hear you. And your name and address for the record, Mama.
My name is Diana Rivera. I live at 178 Central Ave, Apartment 3, Chelsea, Mass. I am proud to say that I am 32 years old, and I am a project woman. My family and I have been raised in the Clinton Courts project, Burma Road projects, and Lock Street. So I am very proud of the Housing Authority. They have done so far a great job to keep us living the way we are, to keep us updated. But in reality, our apartments are like totally old and they need new updating. We have a lot of roaches. The more that they exterminate, they come back more because the buildings are old. The rodents problems that we do have, we try to our best to take care of it, but it's, like I said, it's old. And I see all these beautiful apartments that are getting built here, there, and I feel as a tenant of, 32 years of being in Chelsea housing, more likely that why aren't we, the people that we, pay for, how come we're not getting the beautiful apartment buildings? Yes, I understand that the casinos are coming in. We have more hotels here in Chelsea than what we should have. I think what we should focus on is more income level apartments and make it beautiful for the tenants of Chelsea. And basically, I lived here all my life, 32 years, and I just want the same basic limit that they're providing for other people that are coming into Chelsea. And I would like to see that for us. That's what I would like to see.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the council members for the invitation for the public to speak. I'm Juan Vega from 85 Blossom Street, and I just wanted to get up and echo the sentiment of my fellow commissioners, Tony and Bert, in support of the project. I don't want to reiterate or repeat, but I did want to add some comments. For purposes of disclosure, however, I will say I am employed by the State Office of the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, which our office oversees the Department of Housing and Community Development, which is providing funding to this project. I don't have any direct involvement in that, so I come to you as a lifelong Chelsea resident, as a member of the Board of Commissioners for the Housing Authority. And what I would say to you is, for Bert and Tony, myself, Barbara, and Dawn, who do serve as commissioners, all Chelsea residents, as you are, as well as many of the members of the planning board and others that are going to be reviewing this project, we are certainly very attentive to the needs of the families, the need to reach out to neighbors, as well as caring about how this project gets done in a responsible way. And certainly the parking concerns that you have expressed, we have talked about as well. Those are real. And certainly we expect you to continue to figure out how to address this issue in the long, in the bigger picture for Chelsea, and to help the project figure out how to best mitigate that impact. But what I would add to the conversation is, as a Chelsea resident lifelong, as many of you, I would appeal to your sensibilities. And what I mean by that is, like many of us, I'm sure all of you who know these projects and have seen it can share with us the shame. The shame that we, on your watch, on my watch when I was on that side of the table, the shame for how we have allowed families, generations of families, to live in the conditions that are Central Avenue. We're not even going to get into all kinds of problems and violations about how people can get in, very difficult to get out of those buildings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for us as commissioners, certainly, that's a huge sensitivity for us. We have 96 families who are living in conditions that nobody should be asked to live in. And this project has presented to us the first and only opportunity to make that right, to fix this. We, as a commission and as the Housing Authority, have no capacity. As much as we can dream, we have no capacity to be able to build and bring the quality of life that these families deserve. We just can't do it. This opportunity is the first, and I don't want to say will be the only, but it is certainly very hard to imagine another opportunity like this to be able to, like I said, to make this right. And so this has taken a huge partnership. We have a partnership in the developers and the Housing Authority and the Commission. We have in the contractors that have been brought up. We need you, City Council, to be a partner in this project. You need to come on board with us as well. Get some of these things approved so that, as Al has said, we're still way early in the process. Even though Ronnie and the team at Cochrane have been able to anticipate and try to answer a lot of the questions down the road, please understand there's still so many moving parts to this. And it goes nowhere if we can't get the 40R. It goes nowhere if we can't get the waivers that are going to be needed. Because before they can go out and start talking about real financing for this project, before we can commit the dollars further commit the dollars from the state or from other places, if it's a no-go, then that's what it has to be. You need to look in your souls, decide what you want to do. If it's a no-go, then we need to know so that then, we pack up and do, figure something else. But if it is a go, if it is in your heart, if you share the shame that I have, then please make these votes, make these decisions, and help this project move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. we're going to end it at Norieli's. There won't be no more public speaking because we want to be mindful of the time. And a lot more people got up than they raised their hands. And just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. Go ahead,
Good
Mr.
afternoon, good evening, rather, honorable members of the City Council. Paul Nowicki, lifelong resident here, former City Councilor and Director of Operations at Chelsea Housing. I just want to first and foremost thank each and every single one of you for supporting this measure to come before the Council of the Whole. This is an extremely important matter, and it deserved to come before the Council on the Whole. And I want to thank you, Madam President, for taking the courage to schedule this so quickly. You are in the line of fire, so to speak, and I think the easiest thing that each of you could have done, because of a lot of negativity that is bouncing around, is just to say no. It's for you, Madam President, not to schedule this. So I give you a lot of credit, and I thank you, that you're allowing this process, this beginning phase. And that's what I come up here for. When I sat up here for 16 years, we came up here, and most of this city was not developed. We were not self-sufficient. We depended a lot on our state and our federal government to pay our bills. And we developed a plan through processes. All right, and that's what I ask, that all of you allow this to go through this process. Allow it to go through the 40-hour. Allow it to go through each and every single one, to allow all of these wonderful people that live in that Innis development to be a part of this process, to allow all the abutters to be a part of the process. Because you're right, they haven't been right now. And I'll tell you what, the Cochrane development team, I would not stand up here. I would not be a part of this. I would not be a part of those meetings if not for the confidence and the respect I have in that Cochrane development group. The first meeting I had when I sat down with Attorney Callahan and Mr. Cochrane, it was about the people will be a part of this process from the get-go. That is a tremendous statement to make at the beginning when I just met these gentlemen. There are a lot of things that have to go on, and my thing is just to allow this process to go forward. This is step one, all right, of many, many steps. And again, I thank each and every single one of you for allowing this first step. And I think you've seen the support here from our residents, from the unions who are going to be a part of getting Chelsea people, Chelsea jobs, and specifically the commitment from the Cochrane Group that they will be committed to our residents, to the neighbors, and to this city. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Joan Cromwell, and I just came tonight, and I've heard from lots of the residents, and I don't think it should take a project to allow folks that not live in substandard conditions. I think the upkeep should have just been continued. When I hear about cockroach mices, which is my greatest fear, and everything else, that's unfortunate. But with that said, the project is great. I think that I just wanted to ask a question in terms of is parking and utilities included for middle and market rate units as well?
Parking and utilities are not included for the market rate. We don't know at the moment how much we're charging for parking, if we will at all. And
not for middle.
For the
as well.
For the utilities and parking,
right.
There is a utility allowance allowed for middle income, which we will follow, and that's set by the state.
Okay.
We don't know anything about the parking yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
but for the 96 units there, utilities and parking's free, but not
Yes.
for market rate nor middle income that's coming in and paying.
So for the 96 units, parking and utilities are parking's free. They have one spot, as they currently do as public housing residents. Utilities are covered by the housing authority, part of their 32% of income that they pay.
Okay.
For the middle income units and for the market, we don't know about the parking yet. We don't know. We obviously have a lot of more conversations to have.
Okay.
But for the middle income units, there is a utility allowance. So a part of their rent is a calculation for utilities. So in a sense, it's covered by their rent.
Okay.
So
And
it is
also,
included.
Okay. And also, I just wanted to ask, how are you going to be creative and keep in one community? How are you going to sell and cater to this all-inclusive community? And will you be able to sustain renting to the 194 market rate units? Per Crestline will be $3,000 a month in a mixed housing atmosphere.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's very the integrated community and mixed income communities is a very new approach, and you have to really be proactive in a sense to maintain it. Our first step is making sure that all the units look the same and that they're spread throughout the building. We think that at first you can't tell, there's not a rich door, poor door, and you can't distinguish which residents, based on their amenities or the way that their apartment looks, is low income. We think that's the first step in making sure it's spread throughout the project. But we're going to be proactive with our property management on site, who will be doing events to promote community, activities. We'll have a community room where everyone can come to that room and participate or share in conversation. Some sites, not our projects that we do, they normally charge for amenities. All our amenities will be included, so there won't be a chance where a public housing resident can't afford the amenities. That's another way to really create that integrated community.
Right, because that's been the theme in Chelsea, where you have Admiral's Hill, where it's pretty okay, it's well-to-do, and then you have Chelsea, which is the crew down here, and so it's always been, it takes talent and art to make it cohesive and make the 96 units feel just as important and just as integrated as the other 104 market rate.
I completely agree. You have to be very proactive about it. It's not going to happen on its own.
Okay, and my last point is, what is your success rate at Columbia Point and Kings Lynn in keeping an integrated community and successfully maintaining market rate units in order to sustain this project?
Yes, so I would say the success rate is 100%. The communities are still mixed income, integrated, spread throughout. If you go there, you won't have any sense of who's market rate, who's low income. All the tenants, they go about their daily business without tensions that you may suspect. As far as the sustainability of it, the pictures that I included, it shows that those are recent. These buildings have been in place for around 40 years, and they still look, like quality units. They're upkept. On the new site, if we get approved, we would have property maintenance on site that would make sure each day the building's being maintained, and also the rents from the market rates help, let us put money into the building. The problem that Al mentioned is that the CHA just doesn't have the money. Their rents are very low. The state doesn't give them much money to operate on. And when you're in that predicament, it's very hard to upkeep the building. But in our situation with the market rate and the mixed income model, we would be able to sustain that for 99 years.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Noria Elise. I'm a longtime resident of Chelsea and I work for the Chelsea Collaborative. I will be brief because both Juan Vega and Paul Nowicki sort of said some of the points that I was going to mention today, and thank you guys for making this process a long process where you ask the questions, you're really taking care of the tenants, of the concerns that are related to tenants who are currently in those 96 units, but also considering the neighbors and the surrounding community. I'm hopeful that there will be some type of understanding that we can come up to, because at the end of the day, these are 96 families that deserve to have a decent home. And I'm talking not just as an organizer that has been working with the tenants in the housing authorities. I mean, just last week I was sitting down at the elderly building over in Margolis with Paul Nowicki as they were holding their re-elections. So I have been working with these tenants for a while. I helped create the tenant council at the Anise development, but I'm also talking to you guys on a personal note. I have family who have gone through the Central Ave apartments. My kid's grandmother and my kid's great-grandmother both live in public housing developments. And I have to say that the conditions in the Central Ave and the Anise housing developments is really bad, right? And as Juan mentioned, we all have a sense of responsibility for this, right? And we had the opportunity to give these people a decent home. So please, whatever questions or concerns that you guys have, I ask that you please try to work it out with the Housing Authority, with Corcoran, and I'm sure that there could be some type of agreement so that we can, one, preserve and renovate the units that we currently have for these 96 families, and then also try to see if we can get these other units available for our Chelsea residents. So thank you so much, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody that came up and spoke. I do want to make a couple of comments. I believe firmly that no matter what your economic situation is, that everybody is entitled to have a roof over their heads that's not going to fall on their heads, no mice, no roaches, no leaks. So I believe that everyone, those 96 units, you do deserve an adequate apartment. You deserve that to dignified living. So, I mean, I think we as a body all recognize that. It's just our role here is to try to balance how we provide that for you, but also not interrupt the quality of life for residents in that area. But I just want to also thank the Chelsea Housing Authority for all the work that they've done on this project. I know you came before us a little over a year ago, and you listened to our concerns about, no, we didn't feel comfortable with this not without prevailing wage, and you went back to the drawing board, and you came back with something that's a little bit more easy to swallow. There's some, there are still some concerns, of course, with parking, and so I won't pretend that everything is perfect. That's a serious issue. With the bridges going up, with the traffic in the city, with all the construction, I fear one day we have another Chelsea fire and we're all just stuck and we can't move, and that is one of my biggest fears, just because of the density in the community. But I appreciate all the work that has been done in the community coming together and people coming to support. It just makes me very proud. So thank you so much for everything that you've done. I will ask that we do get a printout of this presentation so we can make a more informed decision. And I have one question that came to me via Facebook. Where would the entrance be for the parking garage?
But we kind of have an idea. We would have about one entrance on this side for Building A.
Which is Central Ave.
Central Ave, yep. And then on the back side of Watts, there would also be another entrance.
And the back side of Watts.
There's about two levels here. That's, I mentioned earlier, we're building within the slope of the site to take advantage of that and to hide parking as much as possible. And then over here, the entrance would probably be either on this side of Willow Street or on the side of Watts.
Okay.
Yeah, Watts.
All right.
Sorry.
Thank you. So I'm recommending that we continue this. Once there's more information, maybe we meet again to further discuss this. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming and being here. Do you have any final comments before we close out? You do.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the council for taking the time to listen to this project.
Absolutely.
And I just want you to keep in mind that, I hope that you make a decision on the project in its entirety, and that we're not just focusing on one issue that we may have, and that we keep in mind that it's, again, about the people, specifically 122 children that we have living in that development. Every study that we've done and have read shows that children do better when they're in a mixed income development. They have an opportunity to be among professionals. They do better in school. They do better in life. So I just want you to keep them in mind. That's what this is about. It's about people. Thank you.
Are you all set?
I just want to say thank you for having us.
Okay, absolutely. Seeing no further business before us, we're adjourned. You said you didn't have any comments. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Robinson, our senior member.
Well, first of all, I didn't have an opportunity to ask any questions.
You didn't? Okay.
So, well, you went around the room and asked everybody, but you didn't ask me. The bottom line, I want to thank everybody. First, I want to thank my colleagues for entertaining this here this evening. I'd like to introduce a former Senator Linda Flory, who's going to be part of the team working for Suffolk Construction. We're going to continue to kick the can down the road to deal with this whole parking issue. And I'm sure we're going to find a way to get to the end at some point in some time. And as Juan said here, and couldn't have said it better than anybody else, keep that in mind when you go home tonight. And I just want to thank everybody for being here.
Seeing no further business before us, we're adjourned.